So welcome back to the channel. If you haven't watched the video on how to stain a pre-war Chris Craft, you might want to go back and watch that one because this is the next step. So what we're going to teach here today is basically varnishing the boat. It's been stained, it has 2 coats of sealer on it, and it needs another coat of varnish. So we're going to go through that and show you exactly how to do it. So this one's starting to wear out a little bit, and it's a good idea for you to vacuum them every once in a while as you're Scotch-Brighting. Just makes them last longer. I like to cut them in half too. So these are the 3M 07447 maroon pads. They have the right amount of grit to them that makes the varnish really nice and opaque and scratches it up. So recommend you use these. All right, that's it for the decks. So what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna get on the hull sides and scratch those up really good, and I'll be right back. All right, so the hull is Scotch-Brighted. Out of breath a little bit. I know I should have wear a mask, and I usually do, but I wanted to talk to you guys. So what we're gonna do now is we're going to vacuum really good, and when you vacuum you really want to make sure that you get all in the cracks and all in the seams, even places where you're not going to actually varnish. That dust, when you move by it, like with a roller or with your brush, it's going to kick it up. So just make sure that you vacuum really good. Oh yeah, so you want to use a nice horsehair brush, you know, something pretty soft. Also a good idea while you're vacuuming, take a piece of Scotch-Brite pad with you. There's a little section on here that it didn't Scotch-Brite enough. So carry one with you. As you're going through the boat and vacuuming, you can hit those spots. All right, see how the brush has some white on it? So that is the dust from the varnish when we Scotch-Brighted. You want to rub on that a little bit when you're using the vacuum as you're going through the boat, just to get rid of that stuff so it just doesn't leave it behind. Hold on. Now, if we were doing coat 5, say that we had 2 coats of sealer on this boat and then 5 coats of varnish, we'd sand with 320. So the process that we use is to stain the boat, then to give it 2 coats of clear sealer, that Petit clear sealer. And the reason that we do that is that protects the stain. You can put 2 coats on in one day. So 2 coats on, one right after the other, let the first one dry, then apply the second one, and then we can Scotch-Brite that safely without going through and hurting the stain. Because what you don't want to do is you don't want to rub so hard that you get into the stain and remove some of the stain in some spots and it looks blotchy. So that's why we put the clear sealer on there. So after that, then it's 5 coats of varnish. Then on your 5th coat, you want to sand with 320, and we use this Abernet 320. It looks like a mesh hooked to a vacuum, so it's virtually almost dust free. So all this can be found on my website, which is studioworks.com. Go to my store. We've got everything there that you'd need to do this job. So, all right, for this next step, you are going to need some paper towel, some rubber gloves, and some thinner. So this thinner is the 120 brushing thinner from Pettit that's compatible with the varnish. Not a good idea just to use any old thinner. We don't know what's in there, what contaminants, if there's any oils or anything in that. So really make sure that whatever varnish you're using, we like to use the Captain's Pettit, the 1015. Make sure the thinner is compatible with that. All right, so now that we are done Scotch-Brighting the boat, we are going to thinner wash it. There's two reasons why I do this. So one reason is to help pick up some of the dust that was left behind. Another is I've been putting my hands all over this thing while I was Scotch-Brighting the sides. And so the oils and stuff from your hand has now contaminated the top of the varnish up here. And I don't want to just varnish over that. So I'm going to wipe it up with some thinner. Just add a little bit to it. Don't soak it. You just want to get it damp. And then just go over the whole boat. I flip my towel every once in a while because this now has the yellow on it. It's contaminated by the dust, so keep flipping it. All right, so we're done with that. The boat has been vacuumed really well and then wiped down with thinner to get rid of all those oils and contaminants by touching it. What you'd want to do with your paper towel afterwards is make sure that you open it up and lay it on the edge of a trash and then take that out when you're done. You don't want to put these into a ball and then if it was warm out, they would combust and catch fire. So important just to make sure that you open these things up. All right, and now it is tack cloth time. So I open up these tack cloths up and kind of refold them. And you're not trying to burnish it, you know, you're not trying to push really hard, you just want to pick up that dust that's left behind. So the other day, somebody asked me how they could help support my channel, and I thought about it, and so what I did is I started a Patreon account, and what that is it's a site where you can go in and sign up for a monthly amount and help support me. Now that's gonna help me buy, like I need a new camera stand. Mine's probably 20 years old. It'll just help buy some equipment and help support the channel. There are different tiers with it. In different tiers, different things are offered. Say the highest tier is offered some one-on-one teaching. You'll get special videos in that Patreon account at different tiers as well. So please consider joining my Patreon account and helping me out on my channel. I greatly appreciate it. All right, I got my tray. So we use these trays, and you can get them on my website. The reason why is because if this thing had lines in it, the varnish wouldn't go on even to the foam roller. So these really just help to make sure that you get a nice even amount of varnish on the roller. So I tack clothed the inside of my tray, I vacuumed the roller, and I vacuumed the brush. So I'm getting a little bit on this brush, kind of pre-soaking it a little bit, just so when I use it for the first time, it's not dry. So I'm applying that varnish in a crisscross method. We do have a video out for that if you want to check that out. Just try to get a nice even coat put down on there. I usually break it at a seam, like right here. What you want to do is when you want to brush it, you want to make sure that you brush it into the coat you put down first. So pull that brush right through into the other one. I'm not pushing hard with my brush, I'm just tipping it. Just a nice light tip. Also, I'm turning my brush every once in a while. So notice that I'm not going this way. And the reason is that every time that you hit one of these seams, it's going to deposit a little bit of varnish on here. And I don't want varnish in my seams because I'm going to have to get that out when I go to caulk. So that's why I go with the seams. All right, so my brush is loading up a little bit. I've done probably about a little over half of the boat. And from it going over the varnish, there's just a lot of varnish right here. So I'm gonna clear my brush. Pretty easy to do. Set it down, take your roller, go right over the top of it, and just push that varnish out. Now I just pick that varnish up with my roller. I got most of it out of the brush, and I just go back to varnishing. So the decks are done. Beautiful coat. I'm gonna knock out these sides and I'll be right back. All right, so that does it. That's one nice coat, all on the whole boat, decks and sides. That's coat number 5. So like I said before, after coat number 5, you're gonna wanna sand with 320. The boat's orange peeled a little bit, and so you're just gonna knock the top off of it with the sandpaper and then Scotch-Brite over that. You're gonna do that on coat number 5, sand with 320, coat number 10, and coat number 15. Scotch-Briting in between every coat. Even the coat that you sanded, you want to Scotch-Brite over just to make sure that it's nice and scuffed up. So after coat 15, you're going to want to put your name and numbers on if you're using gold leaf, and then you're going to put 4 coats over the top of that to protect that, 4 to 5. You'll know when the varnish is good enough and nice and flat, but when you're sanding on that number 5 coat, you just want to knock the top off of it, basically scuff it up a little bit. It's not about getting it smooth. All right, you don't want to take all the varnish off that you just put on. It's about building coats. So number 5, you're going to knock the top off. Number 10, you're going to sand it just a little bit more. By that time, it's going to be almost perfectly flat at that point. Put 5 more coats on it, coat number 15. Then you're going to want to sand that right down to flat. All right, so what we're trying to do is build coats here. We don't want to just put a coat on, sand, put a coat on, sand. By the end of that 15th coat, you'll barely have any varnish on the boat because you've sanded it all off. That's why we sand 3 times. Hopefully that was helpful to you, and now you know how easy it is, really. It's not that difficult, and it's very satisfying. So as you build up those coats, and it really starts to shine back. It's a great thing. So if you have any questions or comments, leave them below. Please subscribe, hit that like button, and we'll see you back here.